Welcome to our channel. Embark on a journey through our video series dedicated to comprehensively covering the content of the CITB book, Health, Safety and Environment Test for Managers and Professionals. Throughout these videos, we delve into the crucial topics outlined in the book. Section A, Legal and Management. Section B, Occupational Health, Well-being and Welfare. Section C, General Safety. Section D, High-risk activities. Section E, Environment. In this particular video, we focus on Section D, High-risk activities. For your convenience, a link in the top right corner of the video allows easy navigation through the entire series. We are certain that by engaging with this video series, you will be thoroughly equipped to effectively handle your CSCS card. Keep in mind, the CSCS test typically lasts around 45 minutes, and scoring at least 45 out of 50 questions correctly is required to pass. Before we delve into the content, please show your support by liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot to us. Let's embark on this learning journey together.
Where a work-at-height risk assessment has identified a fall arrest system as the last resort, what else must be in place before work can start? Emergency rescue plan. Replacement harness. Double anchor point. Restraint lanyard. A roofer has fallen from height, leaving them suspended in a conscious and uninjured state. They should now cut themselves free with a knife and jump to safety. Position themselves as close to vertical as possible to reduce swelling. Stop moving and remain still while they wait to be rescued. Be rescued as soon as possible to prevent fainting and unconsciousness. Which one of the following statements about rescuing an injured person from a safety net is correct? There is no rush to rescue them from the net because it is supporting them and rescue can take time. The stretching nature of the net could cause unavoidable further injury when the rescuer enters it. The tight-knit structure of the net removes the chance of further injury from other potential hazards. They cannot be rescued from the net, so they will have to attempt to make their own way out of it. The recommended maximum height for a freestanding mobile access tower when used indoors will be specified by the person erecting the equipment, Site Health and Safety Advisor, Access Equipment Manufacturer, Work at Height Regulations 2005. A worker has fallen and their fall has been arrested by their fall protection equipment. The main reason for a quick rescue response is to prevent the onset of suspension syncope, avoid them having a cardiac arrest, prevent them from being concussed, avoid added weight on the anchor point. Which two of the following factors must be considered when selecting the correct type of mobile tower? That it is suitable for the type of work to be carried out. That it will be stored in a suitably large enough area. That it will have a suitably embedded anti-static device. That it is suitable for the environment that it will be used in. That it is constructed from suitable lightweight aluminium. To operate and use a scissor lift, the operator must hold which one of the following to evidence competency? Prefabricated Access Suppliers and Manufacturers Association PASMA card. Powered Access License PAL card. Construction Industry Scaffolders Record Scheme CISRS card. push-around verticals PAV card. A worker needs to use a boom platform and holds a valid International Powered Access Federation IPAF license. As they have not operated one recently, they must first do a refresher course so that they can renew their license due to the complexity of using this machinery. Full health assessment with a qualified health practitioner who can examine if they have satisfactory fitness levels. Walk-round familiarisation check of the equipment with site management to refresh their knowledge of it. Familiarisation training session on the model over a realistic time period and with a competent person. To be able to use a scissor lift, which one of the following must the operative do before they can operate it? Receive familiarisation training sessions from a site manager. Download and use a computer simulator app for scissor lifts. Receive formal training from a recognised training body. Download and read the manufacturer's instructions. Which one of the following must employers consider first in regard to work at height activities? The consequences of falling. That all equipment is inspected. Whether it can be avoided. Use of appropriate equipment. In line with the Work at Height Regulations 2005, which one of the following is the most effective way to avoid working at height? Contractors managing their own risks from work at height and using suitable equipment. Architects and designers designing out the need to work at height in the design phase. Employers refusing any tasks that require extensive work at height procedure. Clients contracting out the work to professional work at height operatives. When conducting a work at height risk assessment, it is important to consider short duration work to determine how many people will be needed to complete the task, the personal protective equipment required to complete the task, if ladders are acceptable to use to complete the task, if fall arrest provision will be needed to complete the task. A roofer has been asked to carry out slate repairs to a domestic property using a roofing ladder. What should be their first consideration? Giving this work to someone else with more experience of the task. Ensuring that the ladder complies with British Standard EN 131 ladders. Changing the access equipment to a collective protection type. Ensuring that the ladder can be properly secured at the top and bottom. When a work at height task cannot be avoided, which one of the following is the next consideration for a group of roofers? Select the correct access equipment. Provide appropriate personal protection. Minimise the collective risk from falling. Ensure that workers are trained and competent. When complying with the Work at Height Regulations 2005, the hierarchy of risk control states that collective protection should be considered after individual risks have been identified. Collective protection is mandatory and would be identified on the method statement. Personal protection should be considered after collective controls have been taken into account. Personal protection systems that take into account everyone at risk are always the first option. A joinery team is erecting a timber-framed roof and cannot avoid the risk of working from height. Which one of the following must they undertake to prevent falls? Provide all workers with a current risk assessment that they must follow. Erect a suitable scaffold with edge protection around the working area. Ensure that all ladders and work equipment are checked and tagged. Fit suitable barriers at ground level to prevent any unauthorised access. Before the installation of new roof windows, you carry out a work at height risk assessment. Which method would reduce the risk the most? Installing a scaffold around the roof with additional edge protection. Carrying out the work from a mobile operating platform with extra barriers. Using lifting equipment that can take materials up to working height. Carrying out the task from within the property and below the roof. British standards and regulations for ladders changed in 2018 to BS EN 131. Any ladders that do not meet this new standard should be kept in a locked store and only used if all other ladders are in use. Be in good condition and inspected regularly so that they can still be used. Have been destroyed by the end of 2018 and replaced with new compliant ladders. Not be used due to being too narrow at the base and therefore unsafe. Which one of the following factors do you need to be aware of when using telescopic ladders? They are difficult and awkward to extend. They can easily blow over in the wind. They are prone to twisting and flexing. They become very rigid when fully extended. A full risk assessment has been conducted and has identified that a two-piece ladder is the safest method of access for a task. Before starting the work, which one of the following must the operative do? Gather all of the tools and equipment needed at the base of the ladder. Measure the ladder to ensure that it is long enough for the height to be reached. Ensure that an up-to-date and signed safety tag is attached to the ladder. Check that the ladder is colour-coded for identification of its weight limit. When a mobile elevating work platform is being used for lifting people, the frequency for thorough examination should not exceed 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Working next to or over water from a mobile elevated work platform must be assessed to identify the greatest risk of injury to the worker. The decision to wear a harness or not is taken because it is stated in the safe working procedures that individuals must be anchored to the machine. The risk assessment identifies that the risk of drowning is greater than the risk from the fall. There is still a risk of falling into the water, and when the fall is arrested, a rescue will be much faster. The risk assessment identifies that the boom cage provides sufficient protection if a fall occurred. When operating a mobile elevated work platform at height, it is only acceptable to lower the platform using the ground controls when the operator in the basket has told an individual on the ground to do so, is unable to because of an emergency situation, is struggling with an obstruction on the ground, does not have a full view of the working area. The safe working load of a mobile elevated working platform should not be exceeded because it would not be able to reach full working height. This would cause the tyres to deflate. This would create instability when in use. It would not be able to gain traction over uneven ground. The main risk from leaving keys in a mobile elevated working platform overnight is that the brakes will be able to unlock and it could roll away, causing damage. Digital log of use will keep running, extending the least hourly rate. Fuel will remain on trickle, which could leak and result in a fire risk. Equipment could be accessed or vandalised by unauthorised persons. When operating a mobile elevated working platform, MEWP, in a restricted or enclosed space, which two of the following controls must be followed? Workers must have a full understanding of all controls to avoid collisions. The MEWP must be fitted with a bumper system to avoid damaging walls. Batteries for the MEWP must not be charged in confined or small areas. A diesel-powered MEWP must be selected as they are the safest to use. Operators must have been extensively trained in emergency first aid response. A mobile elevated working platform is being operated along a building perimeter that runs alongside a busy city street. There is segregation in place between pedestrians and the machine. Which one of the following precautions must also be in place? Fluorescent strips are attached to the machine to ensure that it is visible. The position of the machine during work is not blocking the view of street signs. Noise levels of the machine are restricted to reduce the impact of noise pollution. Additional guards are fitted to the machine to prevent unauthorised tampering. When work on a fragile surface cannot be avoided, which one of the following must be put in place to mitigate the risk of falls? Tell everyone within the working area in person about the hazards from the fragile roof. Install suitable and sufficient platforms, guardrails and load-bearing covers. Cover the dangerous fragile area with safety netting and advise everyone. Mark off the dangerous fragile area with red and white warning tape and install signage. When assessing if a roof is safe to work on, which one of the following applies? A roof is safe to walk on if the pitch is less than 30 degrees and it is covered in slate. All roofs should be treated as fragile until a competent person has confirmed otherwise. A roof should be visually inspected by a roofer at ground level and confirmed to be safe. All roofs should be accessed safely using roofing ladders supported by ridge tiles. What is the safest way to access fragile roof lights? From above, using a mobile elevated working platform. From the side, using a suitable roofing ladder. From underneath, using a suitable working platform. From the side, using roof boarding and guardrails. Which two of the following surfaces should be treated as fragile, requiring extra safety precautions to be taken? Concrete, slates, wired glass, steel, timber. A plumber needs to work on a slate roof to install an extractor duct. This type of material could pose a risk as it is likely to be fragile and can collapse when extra weight is put on it. Strong enough for a person to stand on, but only for short periods of time. Unpredictable and should not have been used on a roof. Flimsy and highly flammable if exposed to heat from work equipment. The main reason for using safety nets rather than personal fall arrest systems is that they are cheaper than individual equipment, allow easier rescue in the event of a fall, can cover a wide floor area, provide collective protection from falls. Safety netting systems are primarily designed to arrest falls and prevent any injuries due to their rigid structure, catch falling debris and materials to protect pedestrians, save time and money by being quick and easy to erect, reduce the severity of injuries but not the likelihood of falling. To comply with the Work at Height Regulations 2005, any fall distance from the working platform into the safety net must be as little as reasonably practicable, enough to allow a person to stand up, 6 metres below the working area, twice the height of the average worker. Before using a newly installed safety netting system, you must ensure that it is checked and inspected by a competent person, tested by workers in a simulated training session, double anchored at every attachment point, secured underneath with a finer net to collect debris. When installing safety netting for workers' protection, you should ensure that it is erected in line with the end of the working platform and is logged in the plant maintenance records. It is erected as close as possible to the working level and is free from obstructions below. The exact weights of all operatives working above the area are taken and recorded on site. The netting holes are big enough to pass a mobile phone through in case of an emergency. The Work at Height Regulations 2005 requires scaffolders to demonstrate that they have the required knowledge to select the correct equipment needed, the required training to erect, dismantle and alter the equipment, understood how to follow the equipment manufacturer's guidelines, sufficient training to complete the risk assessment adequately, following a severe storm, what must be done before restarting work on any scaffolding? Workers need to be warned that the platform will be slippery. Inspection tags need to be checked to ensure that they are still attached. The structure needs to be checked by a competent person for deterioration. The safe system of work needs to be updated and reissued. What is the main difference between podium steps and step ladders? Podium steps can be altered to a wide range of heights and dimensions. Step ladders allow a worker to position themselves closer to the work. Podium steps allow the worker to face any side of the working platform. Step ladders are much easier to store and inspect. A live electrical cable is within a 5-metre radius of a mobile elevating work platform, MEWP, in operation. The risk from the cable to the MEWP is minimal as the safe working distance is 4 metres. Needs to be managed as it is within a distance of 10 metres. Will be unpredictable as it will be insulated and earthed. Is not an issue until any tools make contact with it. What is the main operating difference between a boom type and scissor type mobile elevating working platform that needs to be considered before selecting one for a specific activity? The scissor type's weight capability eliminates the risk of a manual handling injury. The boom type's structure is less suitable to use for installing long and heavy materials. The scissor type is more suitable for rough and uneven ground surfaces or terrain. The boom type can be safely and effectively operated by one person. A plumber needs to work on a slate extension roof to install an extractor duct. Will the roof be strong enough for this work? No, this type of material is unpredictable and can collapse when added weight is put on it. Yes, this type of material is strong enough for a person to stand on, but for short periods of time only. No, this type of material should not have been used on a roof and is not suitable for this work. Yes, this type of material is very strong, robust, and able to withstand this work. An operative has been asked to use a scissor lift to carry out some urgent work at height, but they are not competent to use this type of equipment. Which two of the following must the operative do before they can operate it? 1. Receive familiarisation training sessions from a competent person. 2. Download and use a computer simulator app for scissor lifts. 3. Receive formal training by a recognised training body. 4. Hold a correct valid training card or certificate. 1 and 2 only. 2 and 3 only. 3 and 4 only. 1 and 4 only. Which of the following two work situations are covered by the Work at Height Regulations 2005? 1. Standing on the back of a lorry to unload materials. 2. Carrying out a task in an excavation or shaft. 3. Making an additional entrance in an internal wall. 4. Operating a forward tipping dumper. 1 and 2 only. 2 and 3 only. 3 and 4 only. 1 and 4 only. When installing safety netting for workers' protection, which two of the following should be applied? 1. Ensure it is erected directly in line with the end of the working platform. 2. Ensure it is erected as close as possible to the working level. 3. Ensure the installation area is free from obstructions. 4. Ensure it is registered and logged in the plant maintenance records. 1 and 2 only. 2 and 3 only. 3 and 4 only. 1 and 4 only. While working in a confined space, a gas monitor alarm goes off. What is the correct action for workers to take? Quickly ventilate the space and identify the source of the oxygen leak. Ensure that there are no sources of ignition present within the space. Check their breathing apparatus and continue working until told to evacuate. Immediately evacuate the space and ventilate it until oxygen levels return to normal. When checking for underground services, the plans provided by utility companies should only be used as a guide because ground-penetrating radar surveys are used to identify accurate locations of services and connections on plans and drawings. Reference points may have been moved, surfaces regraded, or services moved, and not all connections may be shown. Once routes have been identified, the coordinates, lines, and levels of newly installed services and connections are included. Abandoned services and underground metallic items will always be present and distort the results of any survey. A conventional cable avoidance tool, CAT, will not locate which one of the following: electricity cables, telecommunications cables, lead water pipes, plastic gas pipes. When using a cable avoidance tool, CAT, to conduct a survey for the presence of underground services, the radio frequency is mainly used to detect which one of the following: lighting cables, telecommunications cables, gas lines, water service lines. When using a cable avoidance tool, CAT, to locate underground services, a generator can be attached to an exposed part of a pipe or cable for which one of the following reasons: to detect hidden elements like flat metal covers and joint boxes, to check a wider area where there are underground services, to provide a signal for the CAT to track the line of services, to provide a signal for the CAT to accurately locate plastic pipes. At which two of the following intervals must an excavation be inspected? At the start of every work shift, following alterations to the safe system of work, at 3 hourly intervals during a shift, after any event likely to affect strength and stability, as part of the site's daily health and safety inspection. Which two of the following must be in place to enable work to be carried out safely in a confined space? Health and safety file, adequate rescue facilities, sufficient welfare facilities, permit to work system, respiratory protective equipment. An essential feature of a permit to work for a confined space is the identification of safety inspections for equipment, personal hand tools that can be used, competent rescuers for a specific job, who may authorise particular jobs. The Confined Spaces Regulations 1997 state that nobody should enter a confined space to carry out work for any reason unless they are testing the atmosphere or sampling the contents. It is not possible to complete the task without entering it. The space has been modified to enable the work to proceed. There is temporary access made for only one worker at a time. When carrying out work that is near to overhead cables, who must be contacted before work starts? The Health and Safety Executive, the local fire and rescue service, the relevant power supply company, the local authority. To assess an individual's fitness and suitability for working in confined spaces, a competent person could consult a medical professional, health and safety manager, trade union representative, appointed first aider. An essential element of a safe system of work for confined spaces is the appointment of a fire warden, supervisor, safety representative, building surveyor. Emergency arrangements for confined spaces will depend on the risks. Which of these would not be a main consideration? Rescue equipment, communications, warning signs, resuscitation equipment. It is not possible to provide a complete list of confined spaces, as some places may become confined spaces after cleaning and handover, when left open to the air, when there is only one entrance, during their construction. To prevent against falling materials injuring workers inside excavations, what should be in place? Edge protection including toe boards, netting over the whole trench, pedestrian barriers including fixings, 18mm plywood over exposed areas. The best way to provide a safe means of access into an excavation would be with a trench box, secured ladder, side support, fixed trestle. Contractors must ensure that workers have sufficient information and training to work safely around excavations. They must also provide high visibility cover rails, hot food and drinks, supervision of the work, medical surveillance. Which control measure must be considered in a risk assessment for excavations? Installing remote monitoring, additional training for workers, supplying breathing apparatus, inspections by a competent person. Before starting excavation work, contractors must be provided with relevant information on the ground conditions from the client, engineer, local authority, principal designer. If timber has been used in an excavation for shuttering, it should be checked regularly as it can conduct electricity, dry out and shrink, release toxins, rust and shatter. The limitations and potential inaccuracy of plans that identify surfaces make it important that contractors use a suitable detecting device and employ a vehicle marshal, trenchless technique, safe digging method, appropriate telehandler. Due to a chance of unexpected obstructions and differing ground conditions, workers in excavations must be given extra rest breaks, continually supervised, using rescue harnesses, trained and competent. When controlling hazardous work in an excavation, which of the following must be used to communicate control measures between managers and workers? A visual inspection, a safety briefing, a permit to work, a warning sign. To mitigate health and safety risks posed by electrical cables and to find them before excavation work can start, what must be carried out? A detailed survey of the area to identify the position of the cables. A review of the plans and site records with the subcontractor. Driving of metal rods into the ground to discover the cables. Searching with a mini digger to detect the identification tapes. Once the position of underground cables has been identified, the next step is to mark their location above the ground with plastic warning tape. Location above the ground with clear, durable markings. Running direction using scaffold boards placed above the ground. Estimated depth by driving long metal poles into the ground. When working near overhead power cables, it must be assumed that they are dead, safe, live, low voltage. Work involving vehicles should not take place close to or under an overhead power line in darkness or poor visibility due to the operator's sight being impaired, resulting in confusion when using the vehicle's controls. Specific systems and monitoring procedures in place for operating around power lines. Reflection from vehicles' lighting obscuring rather than illuminating the power lines. Lack of painted fluorescent road markings to separate safe working areas. Plans and drawings showing the locations of underground services should be considered as historical documents that cannot be fully relied upon, and you should be careful when reading them. Is this correct? No, utility companies' ground-penetrating radar surveys are used to identify accurate locations of services and connections on plans and drawings. Yes, reference points may have been moved, surfaces regraded, or services moved without authority, and not all connections may be shown. No, once routes have been identified, the coordinates, lines and levels of newly installed services and connections are included. Yes, changes in colour of the surface material, sometimes known as tracks, will indicate where a service trench can be found. Which of the following is the main duty of an employer under Regulation 4 of the Confined Spaces Regulations 1997? Testing the atmosphere or sampling the contents of confined spaces from outside using appropriate long tools and probes. Considering what measures can be taken to enable the work to be carried out without the need to enter the confined space. Modifying the confined space itself to avoid the need for entry or to enable the work to be undertaken from outside the space. Using remote visual inspection (RVI) to carry out examinations, but only if this will provide the same results and safeguards as entry would. If there are any doubts about the stability of a structure that is due for demolition, which two of the following would be considered competent to provide assistance? A civil engineer, a structural engineer, the company site manager, An environmental manager. A demolition engineer. Before starting the partial demolition of an office building, safety-critical information on how the original structure was designed and built needs to be reviewed. In which one of the following documents can this be found? The Pre-Tender Health and Safety Plan, the Demolition Management File, the Construction Phase Plan, the Health and Safety File. Lifting equipment and excavators with high reach are required for a project where there are overhead power lines. Before any demolition starts, the project must request details of the voltage of the services in the area, disconnection or isolation of the services, updated risk assessments for work to continue, monitoring of the work by the power company. When a structure needs to be demolished, what must be done first before the work starts? The quantity and type of debris must be estimated to allow for the purchase of suitable skips. It must be assessed to calculate how many competent people will be needed to complete the task. The exact location must be found and logged using mapping software in case of an emergency. It must be planned around to prevent danger or reduce risks to as low as reasonably practicable. Demolition work is about to begin. The arrangements for this need to be agreed verbally, recorded in writing, sent to the local authority, discussed as work progresses. When demolition work has been completed, the nature, location and markings of significant services will be kept in the Method Statement folder, Property Survey Report, Health and Safety File, Risk Management Portfolio. All alteration, demolition and dismantling work should be carefully planned and carried out by competent people to avoid unplanned structural collapse, unauthorised workers being on site, unannounced site inspections, unexpected programme delays. Before a building can be demolished, what information does not need to be established in a structural survey? The year it was first built, why it has to be taken down, the material it is made from, what it has been used for. When employing a contractor to carry out demolition work, they must have appropriate access equipment, the correct number of workers, sufficient machinery, competent workers.
Congratulations on your progress. Every step brings you closer to your goals. Keep embracing knowledge until you achieve your desired success. Look for the link in the top right corner to seamlessly transition to the next video.